What's up, homies? What's up, homies? What's up, homies? Welcome to the Knowledgeable Homeowner Podcast. We pick the brains of industry pros to unlock the trade secrets of homeownership. Our mission is simple: to turn everyday people into knowledgeable homeowners. What's up, homies? I'm Sturdy Joe, and this is the Knowledgeable Homeowner Podcast. On this episode, we have Ryan with Triple H Insulation. We're going to talk attics, crawl space, home energy efficiency, all that good stuff. So, no further ado, let's welcome Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
How you doing, man?
Welcome to the garage, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How's my insulation looking in here? A little light?
No, it's doing real fantastic.
It's missing a little bit?
A little bit. I don't know how. I'm surprised it's as warm as it is in here.
Yeah, honestly, it's not that bad, right?
Yeah. No.
You know why? It's 100% sealed. We got a new door. We got new siding. It would definitely fail a blower door test right now.
No, for sure.
But that was a big part of definitely making it a little more comfortable. Here's wrapping the whole thing up. So.
Yep.
All right, so if you came into a home and I was complaining that it was cold in here, right? I think it would be pretty easy for you to
diagnose.
To diagnose
in about
it,
30 seconds.
Yeah. What would it be?
In about 30
There's
seconds.
no insulation?
You mean immediately the fact that there's no insulation. No insulation, little kind of tiny heat source going on.
Yeah, tiny heat source that we turn off.
Yeah.
The lights, I think, are actually doing our whole heating load right now.
That's pretty much what's gotten.
All right, so before we geek out about insulation, why don't you take a second, introduce yourself, tell us about the company, what you guys do on the day-to-day, your background.
So, obviously, I'm Ryan. I actually started with Triple H about 9 years ago.
Nice.
9 years ago in September 21st, 9 years ago. Nice. Really didn't know what I was doing in life. Mm-hmm. I was kind of bouncing around, doing a whole bunch of labor jobs.
Nice.
Was out painting, just started nowhere painting,
Mm-hmm.
Worked my way through that for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. Eventually didn't love where I was. Had my uncle tell me that a company came and did a whole energy assessment on his house, kind of told me how that was, and that the company was looking for, someone who could really just talk to people.
Yeah.
Who was, can actually understand some things.
Yeah. And your title there right now is your home energy comfort
consultant.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is that where you started? You started working doing insulation.
I went in for an interview thinking that I was going to interview for the job that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And the guy was just like, no, I need some installers.
Yeah.
But I talked to him about the company, kind of gave him a shot, heard him out. Pay was a little bit better, but it was also on the books. Great benefits,
Mm-hmm.
Great company
so a
background,
solid
things
gig
like
to get
that.
into. But you were getting in, the job you got was installing insulation.
Installing insulation, started from the very bottom.
Now you speak from a real area of expertise. So now, your job now is you go into homes and you diagnose problems, you help find solutions.
Yep.
Back then, you were the guy who came in after,
I was
and
the guy
you installed the solutions.
Yep.
So now you understand.
I followed suit from the consultant.
Yeah. So you have the book knowledge. We learn all the new codes and we learn all the different ways. But you had the field experience too, where you looked at an attic.
Sometimes looking at an attic,
yeah,
it'd be great. It's nice, or a house, and saying, there's no problem. We get some insulation in there. But
you're thinking about the guy crawling.
I'm thinking about the guy actually doing the work and how realistic is it going to be to do that? Yeah,
and that's because it's so easy to say. Like, I've had people be like, oh, home energy audit, spray foam the box beam, reinsulate the attic. Like, yeah, I get that, but you can do something 90% right with a home with insulation, and it's that last 10% where all are losing their energy anyway. And you guys are coming in saying, I'm going to solve your energy problems, I'm going to help lower your bills, whatever it is. We got to be on point when we do that.
I say this all the time, is like we're just a company that specializes in retrofitting the existing homes of Long Island, which is an average age is from the 70s. Most of them are either way older or way newer, but your average age is from the 70s, and we've specialized in retrofitting them to make them more comfortable, more energy efficient, with the least amount of damage and destruction. Because no one wants to hear that they have to do all this work, then they have to tear down walls.
So less invasive solutions, because obviously the best thing to do is gut the place.
Cost effective as well.
Yeah. Well, the least invasive is absolutely the way to go, and you could, if you know how to do it, you'll see results.
Absolutely.
So you come in when a homeowner reaches out to your company because they know what they want, or they have a problem and they just want someone to help them.
Our motto, Triple H's motto, is we fix uncomfortable homes.
Nice.
Meaning, and it could be uncomfortable in a multitude of different ways. Whether it's my room, my daughter's room is cold in the winter. My son's room is hot in the summer. My energy bills are so high. It's like I'm so uncomfortable paying.
Comfort is
$1,000 an oil delivery.
It's person to person.
Yeah.
So
I'm uncomfortable with the indoor air quality. things like that. It's
So
a
I
multitude.
do, I'm in the energy field.
Yeah.
One of the mottos I like to run with is comfort, efficiency, happiness.
Yeah.
Comfort, efficiency, happiness, because you can be super, super, super comfortable in your home, but if your systems aren't done right, or if you have no insulation, like you can keep your house set at 75 in the winter and your baseboards might get up to it, but you're just throwing money out the window.
Absolutely.
So it's not efficient. So at the end of the day, you were comfortable running your heat, but when you got your gas bill, you weren't happy about it, right? So we need both. And you could be efficient, like growing up, my dad had the most efficient air conditioner. It was no air conditioner. We had no AC in my house up until I was like 17 years old.
Yeah.
And that's an efficient system, but we weren't comfortable and we definitely weren't happy.
Most of the time when I talk to homeowners, I'm like, hey, is your house cold in the winter? They say yes. And then when I go through a plethora of questions with them just to really get to know the home in the short time that I have in the homes. But a lot of times out of 10, it's because the home will be comfortable, but they can't not even afford it. So they don't want to pay the energy bills associated with keeping that.
To get it where it is. Like they know if they set the AC to 68, it'll get to 68. It's just they know they're paying for it. They don't want to pay for it.
They want to be comfortable. Like 70 is their comfort point, but not their comfort in their wallet when they're trying to pay for those bills.
So they have to compromise on one or the other.
They have to compromise, so they have to keep it lower because they know that they don't want that $300 bill or that $400
That's
bill.
my whole logic with the comfort, efficiency, happiness thing is that it's like if you sacrifice on one, like you're not going to be happy.
If your house is good, you'd be surprised on how little utilities that you could go through.
Yeah. I mean, that's the HERS rating. Everything that I do now is trying to figure it out. And
new homes are
retrofitting
ridiculous.
On Long Island. The new construction market is a strange thing. It's mainly multifams or people who can afford to overpay for utilities. So
what
you guys are doing is more beneficial to every aspect of it. The consumer paying the bills. PSE&G doesn't really want you to use electricity because it costs them money to make more electricity. That's why they're kind of cool with.
Yeah, they love your money, but also they're
good with a certain amount. But once we start getting rolling brown,
long term, they're going to be spending more money on upkeep on on their stuff.
Exactly. So it's like retrofitting the existing homes is an important thing. Yeah. So you guys come in. A homeowner is typically uncomfortable in many different ways, a variety of ways. You guys come in, you do a free consultation.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You come in.
The main calls are it's either someone looking for insulation because there's already a room that's cold.
Yeah.
Or we also do energy assessments.
So that one, I get a call a lot for that one is like, because I'm very commonly the person that people reach out to when they don't know who to talk to.
Yeah.
So I answer the phone and I just give my whatever it's worth opinion on things, especially with energy efficiency. I have a good understanding. The very unique situation is like the independent problem in a house. Like my kid's room is always hot.
Absolutely.
So that's a unique one, which I find, like I love, every house is a science project to me. I love investigating things and figuring things out. So you get a lot of calls like that where it's like, we have a specific issue. We can't get this room comfortable. Like
you get the call. The calls are mainly, I just want insulation.
Yeah.
I'm not 9 times out of 10, but a lot of times I'm not figuring out what the actual reasoning is for. Because everyone says they want insulations. That's no problem. It's really hard to diagnose anything over the phone, so we just get in the house.
You got to take a look at it.
And then we got to take a look. And then that's when I go through questions. But it always comes down to, these 2 bedrooms are freezing, or my daughter's room is here, or I'm having, this room has been 5 degrees cooler, 10 degrees cooler. Help me fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, so
that is a lot of the time when I get to the house. It's a specific area.
Yeah, because they're living in it every day. So they've been through it how many seasons? Like growing up in my house, we had a high ranch, and my sister's room was over the garage. Yeah. And I didn't drop the ceiling. They're not there anymore. But I know for a fact there was no insulation in that ceiling. It definitely wasn't air sealed.
Yeah.
The rest of the house was over a conditioned area. So she was the only one over an unconditioned area, and that room was always freezing. So it's like, if that happened in that house, I'd be like, go right there. If I didn't know what I know, I'd be like, you need to tell me what's wrong with that.
I get that all the time.
Yeah.
The high ranches, that's the first thing. It's like, I need my garage ceiling insulated. Yeah. And then I go there, and
there's other things too.
There's always other things.
Yeah, there's always other things.
Because that's a big thing about especially Triple H is it's very unique in, I guess, contracting. We're very customer service based.
Yeah.
It's not like if our projects that I build and the projects that I build for my customers, it's not just insulation. Mm-hmm. It's the solution to that room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
multifaceted. So it's like this project is not, doing some insulation in the ceiling, the walls, and like that's not. The project that I just built was making your daughter's room comfortable in the wintertime. So and if they don't get that result.
So you guys are in the world of building science. You guys are building scientists. You do case studies. You do experiments on homes. So it's corny as it sounds, you're a building scientist. You do an experiment on a house. You're a damn scientist. So
exactly
I'll die on that hill.
Yeah.
Part of it is the house as a whole logic. You really can't solve anything looking at one system. No. You can make things better. Like obviously, if the house is cold or if my oil bill is too high, we can insulate the attic and that'll improve it. But if the boiler isn't maintained, then it's not. It's still going to be wasting oil anyway. So like having that multifaceted approach. But it's also again you got to cater it to the client because if they're not willing to pay for different systems, so you offer them. They say, listen, this is the best approach. This is the best approach. Best case scenario, we do this, 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 and this, and then they probably go, okay, right now I can afford to do this.
That's basically what I do.
What I've noticed too is that people, I think a lot of people, because they have time to think about the problems in their home, and you tell me if you've noticed this, that they kind of have a pre-existing idea of what they want. And sometimes it can be counterproductive because they get so obsessed over it's this window is leaky and I need to fix this, and it's like
the bane of my existence.
Yeah,
it's right? literally
people get obsessed with the problem when it's like that's not the problem. I promise you, that ain't it.
There's a lot of it's like just older mentality and things like that. It's my contractor friend or someone who was a handyman from the 60s, 70s, and 80s and things like that with an older mentality of like, oh, no, this is what you do. And it's a lot of just Band-Aids on bullet wounds type of thing, which is like, they're like, it's this window right here. And then I go in and I run a blower door test and I'm like, go fill your window now. And they're like, I don't even feel a draft.
Yeah. So
like, it is hard when they're like, this is exactly what I want. I want to do this. This is because someone told me.
Yeah.
But that's my job.
Yeah. It's because
my job is to go, hey, you can do this if you want to, but are you going to be upset if it doesn't do anything?
That's what it is, and sometimes it's at the point where it's when they're telling me what they want, it's like, okay, I don't think you're going to get the result you wanted, but some people, they just get so focused. We deal with it a lot, like my realtors will reach out to me, like their tenants are complaining about comfort issues, and like they, especially with a tenant, like they have such a pre-existing idea of what's wrong, and they're just going to twist the landlord's arm until they fix it, and like, I'm coming in there like, listen, I want you to be as comfortable as possible, but like it'll be in the summer. Like they're complaining that the house is hot. There's no air conditioning. The house is hot because the attic isn't insulated. And I'm trying to explain. I'm like, listen, we can insulate this house as much as possible. Like obviously it's going to affect the comfort levels in the home, but I'm like, you also have you like to let the sun in all day. Like your house is getting heated up from solar heat. Like, but it's like they're like, no, the attic needs to be insulated. So I'm like, all right, well, it's going to really help in the winter, but you're still going to be uncomfortable. Like it's really just keeping the heat in here, I guess, at that point.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
It's all day.
Yeah, so educating the public, educating the homeowners when you go in the house is definitely a big part.
That just feels like what I could say, I'm an energy consultant, things like that. I really feel like every single house I go into, all I'm trying to do is educate whoever I'm talking to for the few hours that I'm there, educate them as much as possible on how certain areas affect the home and how addressing certain areas in priority order will make it. If they can't do everything all at once,
let's take
it. I can tell
one
you,
step at a time.
I could probably do lists of, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 worth of work on a house that would make a house super energy efficient. But realistically, no one's got that to stroke the check for that. Yeah. So let's start with what's the biggest bang for the buck, and then let's work down, and then eventually.
Do you guys get involved with any of the rebates?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because talking about laying out $60,000, $70,000, and right now with the IRA Act and all that, there's money giving back to you if you even my accountant asked me, she was I did a little extension, we spray foamed the walls, and she was like, how much? And we were able to get a rebate for the cost of the spray foam. So,
absolutely. Yeah. It's always changing. That's the other thing is it's always changing. Right now, New York State has a couple of programs out. The state has a couple of programs out.
But it is. You got to stay up to date on it. Some of it's income based, so some people qualify for it.
If you're seeing this on Long Island, unfortunately, PSEG, the state funding, state programs that are out there, basically get funded by local utilities paying into the programs. PSEG typically does not. But they offer their own rebate structure.
Yeah, they control it. And
so if you go on
they're
to the
more
state,
about electrification.
Yeah.
So I went to their event and it was all about heat pumps, water heaters.
They're pushing heat pumps like no other.
Yeah, so like most of the energy audit, like I have a unique experience like doing energy ratings that puts me in the house before construction, doing home inspections. I'm in a house that's been lived in for 80 years. So I get such a unique perspective from both ends, and I've seen so many post energy audit houses where I could tell it's energy audit. The box beam spray foamed. They have a heat pump water heater, and they ripped out the boiler, and they're just running on heat pump.
Yeah.
And that's a PSC&G thing. And I'll ask the homeowner, out of curiosity, was your boiler old? Was your water heater old? And they're like, no, but they told us we'd get a free one, or it was covered, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, kind of counterproductive. We just threw out a unit that had 15 years left. If conservation is the end result, we just wasted all of that material and money. Like, you still had $5,000 worth of life on that unit. We just threw it out. So, and I love high efficiency systems. Dude.
I think it's just they'll do anything to get away from oil and gas. I personally love gas, natural gas.
Yeah.
I think it's a great heating method, stuff like that.
If
less oil the better, but oil heats up great. And
in some areas,
most people that are comfortable in their homes have oil.
Another episode, we talk about the pros of oil, because there's areas of Long Island that only have oil. So it's like, it really is house to house. Like, getting your house to the way the homeowner wants it to be. Like, listen, we could gut the whole thing, spray foam everything, throw in a heat pump. The heating load is tiny, so the heat pump can handle it, and you'll be fine.
Write a check for $100,000.
Write a check for $100,000. And where is the return on that? There's certain systems. You have the geothermal systems now, the ground source heat pumps. They're $120,000.
I wish those.
Where
I'm not
is
sure.
the return on that investment?
I know, and that's the one thing that we don't, we don't do a lot of heat pumps. I know enough about the structure of the rebates that are out there.
You guys focus on
way different.
You guys focus on the building envelope. That's what we're worried about. Your approach is let's tighten up your envelope, because that's always going to bring some
number one expression in my line of work that I talk to a lot of my customers, because they always think about either adding more heat, getting more baseboard, doing more things to make things more comfortable. And the analogy that I use, and if you have a boat, and the boat's got a hole in it. It's got a bunch of holes in it.
Yep.
Do you buy a bigger pump to pump out that water coming in, or do we try to fix as many of those holes first and then reassess how big of a pump do we need? Because then you're going to have a pump that's too big if you do any sort of work. So that's what I'm coming into,
And now a word from our sponsor, the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund. This foundation is focused on providing alternative career paths for young people other than just college. If you want to learn more about what they got going on and some updates, you can check them out at lookwhomadeit.org. Now back to the show.
And from my experience, like, again, going into home inspections, but having, we do manual J's, I do HVAC design, I have a good understanding how distribution works. HERS ratings, I test duct leakage. If you have forced hot air in like a really old duct system, like, okay, maybe it's your distribution, but if you have a boiler and you have baseboards, it is not a BTU problem. Your boiler is probably way oversized.
Absolutely.
You have enough, realistically, baseboards, you don't need that many to pump out heat. It's just that heat is getting lost. You have a baseboard underneath an old leaky window with no insulation. He's going right out the window. Make sure your house is insulated
as tight as it can be, realistically, within reason.
Yeah.
And as insulated as it can be, realistically, within reason. And then, if all that fails, then maybe take a look at it. But you can't. No. You can't go outside without a jacket and then just be oh no, 100%. I need more heat around me. It's like.
And how many times you go into a homeowner's attic and the attic's got an inch of
nothing
of fiberglass,
but a brand new,
55 years ago.
Over the summer. So for our company, it's a seasonal thing. So you see patterns. I mean, in my 9 years doing it, so you see patterns. But summertime, it's always I just got a brand new AC system put in. My house was warm, so I got a brand new AC, and it helped a little bit. But the AC people, while they're doing the work, said you should really insulate your house as they already put it in. So they're putting these brand new systems in, saying like, oh, that's going to make my house cooler. But then there's literally 2 inches of fiberglass batting from 1958 to 1965. And
90% of the attics that I go into, I have a default comment where it says attic insulation inadequate, because there really is no adequate amount of attic insulation. I tell them, honestly, sometimes as a homeowner, when I go into the attic and there's no attic insulation, it's actually the best place to be in. Because I'd rather have no attic insulation, so I can go in and I can spray foam the penetrations, I can do a little air sealing, and then throw in some R30, and you'll be in a way better spot than buying a house with, like I said, you'll have bats of fiberglass in the bays that are disgusting. But there's 2 inches, 3 inches, they're not doing anything. There's nothing air sealed, so the insulation ain't stopping anything.
Or you have that original stuff underneath it, and then someone came in and threw like an R13 across the joist, and it looks all nasty.
It's just more stuff to throw away.
And it's like, I'm trying to retrofit this the best way possible, and the most cost-effective way possible, but now all this has to go.
So like a big retrofit, you guys do a lot of blown-in insulation? Yeah, so blown-in cellulose.
Retrofitting a home, I think if you talk to any company that specializes in retrofitting homes, 9 times out of 10 they're going to lean toward blown-in cellulose.
Yeah, I think it's a good solution. Yeah.
It's an amazing solution.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do demonstration after demonstration of like how much better heat retention it has over fiberglass.
Yeah. Well, it's just
the pros and cons. I mean, the pros and cons of everything.
It covers the joist, so you get a continuous R value.
Does everything.
And do you guys get into like making the platform for
Absolutely.
a little bit? So a client doesn't have to give up their whole attic. You can make a platform.
No, yeah, absolutely.
You put like rigid foam or something
Absolutely.
in the base. So all right.
Yep,
cool.
we do like depending on like again how I try to work with as many customers, clients as I can, keeping things within like a budget that's good for them, but also not enabling, not preventing them from doing something again, better in the future. I don't want to do something that they're going to have to take everything down just to redo it better. So whether you want like 2 inches thick of a rigid foam board over your joist, it all depends on how big the joists are in the house.
How much room you got to work
but typically what we'll do is we'll lay down 4 inches of a rigid foam board first. So we'll insulate from your joist up to the foam board. Then you have foam board, and then you can lay down plywood.
So you'll do a layer of the continuous over the ceiling
absolutely,
joist,
as long as it's continuous.
Yeah.
All the building sides, that's the one thing you want.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. So
Thermal boundary has
breaks.
to be touching your pressure boundary and continuous.
Yep.
From then on out, you can't have thermal breaks.
Yeah, and the little TP over the pull down stairs.
Absolutely, we do. Yeah, we'll do like an attic tent. We'll staple it in, something like that. The TP fiberglass ones are absolutely awful.
They suck. Yeah. The
believe
one
me,
with the zipper. You're saying the one with the zipper.
The zipper ones are great. Yeah,
that's the way to
the
go.
other ones that you
seal
can buy
that
from
thing
Home
in
Depot.
there. So now we're not getting, because for what we're geeking out about is that most of your heat loss in a house happens through air. So air, as much as we like insulation, right? You can have the thickest jacket on in the world. If you have the zipper open and the cold air is getting in, you're going to feel cold. That's what's going on in your house. The air escapes through all little cracks, especially in the winter. Your air will go right through the ceiling, all through our recessed lighting cutouts, and especially your pull down stairs. If you have pull down stairs and you pull it down and you're just looking into your attic, those seams, even with a gasket, sometimes they don't close right. Hot air is just going right up through right through the ceiling. So what they'll do is they put, I call it a teepee, but the teepee is actually the cheap one. This one is it's a zippered foil attic tent. Yeah, those things are great. So even and this is what I like about these kinds of solutions, right? You have no insulation in your attic. You have no air sealing. Mm-hmm. You're already starting at zero. If you do one thing and you make it 1% better, as in my experience, you are still making it 1% better, and you're going to actually save 1% off your heating bill. So if you have no insulation, but you have the pull downstairs, and you go to Home Depot, buy the zipper cover, the attic stair cover for $100, and you throw it in, and you spray foam around it, seal it up, you're actually making a difference. And that's my perspective. Is like everything counts with increasing.
I'll be honest, 9 years, I think that's the number one thing that I get a comment on at post job is like the area that was around that.
Always
so much. They're like, because I'll see them in closets and things like that, and they're like, the closet's always super hot or super cold. And after just doing a tent cover for your pull-down staircase or even a push-up hatch.
Yeah, so just
immediately.
That logic for me came from learning in the school. So learning the energy rating, they taught us about UA over an area. So that's UA is how much heat passes through a surface. And if you insulate 100 square feet, but you don't insulate 1 square foot of it, it actually lowers the U value more than that ratio. So it's more than 1% that it actually gets affected by because the heat will find the path of least resistance. And so that's great for new construction. The point is why you need to be continuous and you need to insulate 100%. Being somebody who's in so many existing homes, the way I took that was, if we just do 1% more, it will have an inverse effect where it'll actually increase your heat gains and all that, in a different way. So if every little thing you do with increasing the insulation in your attic, it actually makes a big difference. So
everything.
Yeah, anything helps with that.
Starting off is just air sealing, making the house tighter.
Yeah, air sealing is a big one. So I actually looking at you guys' page, and I love this because I'm in crawl spaces all the time. We're in South Shore, Suffolk County.
Yeah, you're in crawl space heaven over here.
And I'll go in multi-million-dollar homes, and they will have the nastiest crawl space. Crawl space. Oh my God. So crawl space solutions is something that I think needs to be done more. And
Absolutely.
I was really happy when I saw that you guys get involved with that. And so you can go down the nicest blocks over here.
Always.
And the thing is like people will go in their attic, they'll bring the Christmas stuff down, whatever it is. Nobody ever goes into their crawl space.
Exactly.
They do not realize. And you guys are focused on energy efficiency, which is great. But there is also crazy repercussions to having a nasty crawl space that go beyond
everywhere.
Energy.
It's so
termites. Termites love damp, nasty crawl spaces.
Crawl spaces are one of my favorites to do. One of my favorites, especially because of the solutions that we have for them. But they may be second on the list of importance for energy efficiency, but for overall home
health
comfort,
of the house,
comfort of the home in terms of health, comfort of like feeling the floors, things like that, and what that nasty crawl space is bringing into your house.
Mice, termite damage, humidity in the summer. Like if I go in these houses, they got rivers flowing through their crawl space.
Yeah.
They have no pumps. They don't even realize it. Or if it's a dirt crawl space, I go in a house with a dirt crawl space, and I can smell that same musty smell in the house.
It's nasty.
Crawl space.
And it's
so
nasty.
even if you don't
and you
care
ask,
about
they're
your
like,
milk,
yeah, sometimes on really humid days, it's like you don't realize how much of that, whatever's in your crawl space is in your house.
Yeah. So what are like some of the things you guys do in a crawl space to clean it up? Like what do you guys do?
So crawl space, anytime that we can, we're looking to do a crawl space encapsulation.
Yeah.
Anytime possible.
So what does that entail? What,
so
for
basically,
people who don't know what encapsulating a crawl
an
space
encapsulation is basically
simplified.
You typically when you go in, the old school mentality was you add a bunch of vents on the outside of your crawl space to ventilate that air. And then you put insulation, fiberglass in the ceiling, which inevitably, after I don't know how long, it just falls down. It gets wet. Looks like stalactites from a cave.
Yep.
It's disgusting.
Rats through it.
Love through it.
Yeah.
So doing an encapsulation is rather than insulating, and a lot of these houses have baseboard heatings, or their heat pipes are running through, and water pipes are running through their crawl space. Rather than insulating the ceiling, what we do is we spray where the house sits on the foundation, the rim joist. We close up the vents. We insulate all of the exterior walls of that crawl space, and then we do like a vapor barrier. I mean, there's
different levels.
Different levels on the floor,
and the floor depends on the water.
It all depends on what you're putting into it, everything like that. But we do all the walls, and then we make sure that there's no moisture. We limit the moisture coming in, and essentially what you're doing is you're bringing that crawl space into your conditioned space. So it could be dry, not wet, not damp. Preventing mold from growing.
Yeah, mold in crawl spaces is so rampant, it's unbelievable. And the worst is
crazy.
Listen, sometimes there's mixed takes on mold. Mold can be really, really bad, and some mold you can live with, right? But that's not up for me to
100%.
decide. But what I will say is terrible is when we see a duct system, because most duct systems are leaky as hell, and they have a return in there.
Yep.
Return is sucking in air. You got mold in a crawl space, and you're sucking air in through your duct system. It's just blowing through your house.
Absolutely.
And I've been in seven-figure houses that are beautiful.
People have felt sick.
And they said this during the allergy season, they wonder why their allergies are so high. Well, mold is an allergen.
Oh, yeah.
You're blowing it through your house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, crawl spaces are so neglected. There is such a huge need for cleaning up crawl spaces. Do you guys get into putting in pumps? Because that's the one. This is the one issue we have over here.
We don't.
Because middle of Long Island, fixing a crawl space, encapsulate it is cool. Over here, it's like two problems. It's water management and it's humidity management. It's like two different issues. So I feel like it's super difficult to deal with by the water. For me,
again, this is where at least for my professional opinion of like the years of doing research outside of just doing this as a job, just doing continuing education to know about this sort of stuff. Yeah. Pumps are great. It's just it's tough, especially in this area where we are. It all depends on the water table and how frequently you do get water.
Yeah.
Because if your water table's high, it doesn't matter how many pumps you have. If that water table is in your crawl space, that pump's not doing anything. You're just pumping water back out to put back in. But if you get, if occasionally in a storm,
you
3 times or 4 times a year on like a weird high tide, you get a little bit of water that comes in your crawl space.
Yeah.
Get a pump to pump that out.
Yeah.
It's definitely huge.
The point
Not
you bring up is it's like every house is a science project. It's case
Everything
to case.
is different.
Nothing is ever gonna, and that's a problem I find in construction. Like the area that we're in is a very, very, people love to argue energy efficiency. It's too much, it's too little. This is what I do. You can't do the same thing for every house. You can do similar things.
Do not let anyone tell you that that this is what I do for houses.
Yeah. Especially like where you're talking about with the crawl spaces is huge, because if I took the same approach to one crawl space as I did in a mile away, it could cause more issues, where sometimes leaving it alone until you get a good solution is the best. Yeah. Like I see so many people, and I like spray foam in a lot of situations, but I see people with water damage on the floor joists and they're spray foaming, closed cell spray foaming the floor joists. You're just trapping in so many problems, man. Like it's you got at the end of the day, you got to find a company that you trust. Yeah,
and you got to find a professional, and you got to find a reason. I mean, I always say, like, if you're going to have someone come in and they're going to recommend something, you should be able to explain it and why you're making that decision.
Yeah.
Believe me, that sometimes I go into crawl spaces and I look at them, and I ask them, like, how often does it have water down there? And they're like, 365 days of the year,
Yeah.
there's always water. Then I'm like, all right, then an encapsulation is not possible here for
Yeah.
you. We're going to have to go with the next best thing.
Yeah.
Spray foaming the ceiling of a crawl space is the next best option.
On a good, like I said, on a good floor system, if you have a nice clean floor system, because now we're keeping the humidity in the crawl space.
That's it.
That's fine, but so many people if the floor space is chewed up and they're spray foaming, and sometimes they just spray foam the bays, they don't cover the joists, which is kind of a mixed review too, because now all that humidity is getting stuck in the wood. But again, it's so case to case that the contractor recommending the work, because you brought up a good point, the contractor recommending the work should give you a reason why, and if it sounds like it's the most profitable for them, then maybe we just need a different opinion, because they have to have a good reason why it's going to stop your problems.
In the industry, I mean, I'm sure I don't know if you've ever heard it before, but I use a lot of analogies and a lot of sayings. When I explain things is, when you have a hammer, everything's a nail. If you talk to a company that only uses one product, one material, one solution,
gonna be the answer.
that's going to be the answer. And they're going to tell you why everything else stinks.
Yeah.
I mean, I love working for my company because we do a plethora of things, and because we're so customer service, is like if I could do a project there, that's not going to solve the the problem that the customer's having. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it because then at the end of the day, that they call
reputation.
terrible for reputation.
Yeah, we're in the long game.
100%. I mean, we've been around 25 years now, I think.
Yeah, you got to do the right thing.
Got to think about your reputation.
Absolutely. So, I think we're getting close. Was there any other homeowner misunderstandings or anything? This is a perspective I like to take. If there's one thing you wish every homeowner knew, there was one simple thing you wish every homeowner knew.
Honestly,
mine is. I wish every homeowner knew if they had a boiler or a furnace. I can't stand when they call it the wrong thing. So that's
really?
One tip. Oh my God! Not that I can't stand it, but it's like if I can teach you anything, I want you to know that that's a boiler or that's a furnace. Please don't mix up the two of them.
Oh yeah. No, I mean I get that all the time. They're like, do you have a boiler furnace? They're like, I think it's a boiler.
Yeah, nobody.
And
knows.
I was like, and I'm looking around. There's no baseboard.
And I want them to be. The point of this show is knowledgeable homeowner. I want them to understand well enough that's a boiler, and that's it. I don't need them to know anything else. I think I know. It's just if your home is uncomfortable, we call Triple H to
at the end of the day, if you have any sort of question about comfortability of a home or anything like that, you call me.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out, and if it's something that we can help you with, I'll help you with, and if it's something you can't, I'll refer you to someone who can.
Absolutely.
But I'll be honest, I think one of the things that I wish every homeowner did is when they bought their home, and they have to get an inspection, to do research into an inspection company.
Nice.
That would be it. And pick someone.
I didn't pay him to say that.
No, pick
I have
someone.
a great reputation, man.
No,
Thousands of homes, people love me, and people call me years later. That's my best referral. Is that they've been in the house years. I've been doing it 7 years now. I have clients from when I first started, and their cousin. I'm like, well, that's right there because they've been living in there, and I'm in the house 2 hours. They're there 7 years. They see it a lot more than I did. So.
No, number one thing that I get, and it's like sad to hear because it's so simple, and you're just getting into the energy efficiency field, so now you're probably realizing how much more important it is rather than it was 10 years ago. The amount of times that I go in to people's home that just bought their home, now they're experiencing their first year, and it's freezing and everything like that, and I go into the attic and there's no insulation in the attic, there's no air sealing, there's giant holes, and they say to me, I wish my inspector had said something.
Nice.
And too many times, unfortunately, don't know if you are or not, but when you're working with real estate agents, 9 times out of 10, they're going to refer to someone, and that guy's not going to say anything that's going to hold up the sale of that house. So if you're buying a house, maybe shed the couple on. I know it's a lot of money, but shedding the couple extra $100 to go with a really reputable inspector that's actually going to take your needs involved.
Yep.
And he's like, listen, they're not the end of the world problems, but you should still know,
my take is that the more information people have about their home, the less surprises there are. So if when I'm doing, and not to get into home inspections, we're going to wrap in a second, but I think it's a great thing to wrap on. The more they know, the less surprises they are, the happier they are in the long run. It's a lot easier to deliver, like you said, talking about insulation.
Surprises.
Hey, I have a default comment, inadequate insulation. Lets them know you have a problem. At some point in the future, you need to correct it. They know about it. They can game plan for it. No surprises. If we could take the surprises out, it makes everything so much more comfortable.
Everyone's so much happier.
All right, that's a great thing to end on.
If you haven't seen your attic, get in the attic. And if you don't have a lot,
or pay me to go in your attic. Ryan H., Triple H Installation, thank you so much for coming on. His recommendation, hire a good home inspector. So
absolutely.
I know one. But thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me out. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.